The advent of the direct market was an important step forward in the comic book industry. In the late 1970s, the industry was facing a crisis. Sales were low due to the usual retail outlets, newsstands, convenience stores, and drugstores closing up or devoting less and less space to comic books. Sell-through, the percentage of comic books ordered from a publisher that were actually sold by a retailer, was also on the decline. At the time, comic books were distributed using the same method as that for magazines. That is, a retailer ordered a certain number of comic books and whatever remained unsold was returned for a full refund. Early on, typical sell-through was around 70% and sometimes in the 80 percentile range. By the mid-1970s, sell-through had declined so much that a 40% sell-through was considered a success. This meant that 60% of what was being printed was simply being returned and destroyed by the publisher. When the costs of paper and printing began to rise, the cost of this waste became unacceptable. It was clear that a new avenue of sales would have to become available, or the entire comic book market would perish. Fortunately, a solution of sorts was in the works. In 1975, Phil Suling had begun a system of direct distribution of Marvel and DC comic books to stores that specialized in comic books and comics-related merchandise. These comics were offered at a deeper discount than was available at newsstands, but in return, they were non-returnable. So the dealer took on the risk of ordering rather than the publisher. The direct market system grew, and after time, Marvel and DC were distributing 80% or more of their comic books via the direct market. The direct market was beneficial for a number of reasons. First, it eliminated the unnecessary waste of the previous buy and return system. Sell-through at a comic store was usually close to 100%, and so a smaller volume of sales would still reap a greater profit when compared with the newsstand market. Second, comic book specialty stores were generally operated by comic book fans who knew the material. Thus, the retailers were better able to assist their customers and determine the quantities of comic books to order by their popularity and how well they would sell. A greater variety of titles were also available through the direct market. Comic books had to share space with the newsstands with newspapers and other magazines, but in a comic book store, most, if not all, the space was devoted just to comic books. Also, newsstands had little control over which comics they received and didn't always get consecutive issues of a given comic. Buyers now had more than just the most popular comics to choose from, and they could count on getting their favorites each and every month. The no-return policy basically created the back issue market. Unsold copies of comic books were bagged and put in boxes, and a collector looking for an older issue could usually find it at a comic book store. Another nice byproduct of the direct market was that since the newsstands were bypassed, comic books distributed exclusively via the direct market had much less to fear from the Comics Code. And so, more brazenly, mature titles could be published without being submitted to the code at all. All of this certainly helped all aspects of the market, publishers, dealers, and collectors, in financial ways. But there were implications for the advancement of comic books as an art form as well.